Hello, this is the 121st Test from the Future, an experimental podcast from the year 2223, which we are sending from our present to yours. My name is Dirk.
And my name is Simon.
And we're putting the past in podcast. It's a technological episode again today.
It is. Bringing it back on topic for our show, after 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks we were speaking about election stuff.
Exactly. And now it's back on track.
Nice.
And but before we get to the technology
we're going to double
today.
Exactly, we're going to double load it. We're going to... So we have a main topic, but before that, just a brief mention that there have been some really exciting new developments regarding space travel. We're finally getting access to some of that sweet, sweet alien technology. So I say we, not me and you, but humanity as a whole, integrating that technology into our own spaceships. And it looks like soon humans will actually be able to visit other star systems for the first time.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
That's it's been all over the news the last couple of days. It's still, it's not rumors. It's known that this is shared, but it's still unclear what is actually then all needed to be done.
Right, and the time scale involved.
But I'm hoping sooner rather than later.
Definitely, that we at some point maybe can actually go somewhere. So go to another star system.
I was even thinking about our show. Sooner rather than later, then we can talk about
that too, of course. I guess you may... So of the two of us, you're more likely to go as part of your job. You're more likely to go... you'll be one of the first ones to go. So I'm assuming now. I'm making big assumptions.
I hadn't thought of it like that, but I'm gonna apply if that's a thing.
Yeah. And then exactly. And then bring me along. We can make a podcast.
True. It's actually we've been welcoming the Illuminati and the Martians on our planets for quite a few decades already.
Maybe they'll return the favor. Well, maybe not the Illuminati, but the Martians at least. Maybe they'll return the favor.
Exactly. If we are actually able to go there, they have quite a few decades to catch up on. It's going to be a pretty cool, couple of pretty cool business trips. Cool. Yeah. So we'll keep you, the listener, up to date.
Right. That's for future episodes. This episode, though, we're going to be talking about Holodays, which I'm going to say it again. Holo. Yeah, holo sounds clearer, I think. This is a thing where when it's written down, it's clearer. HOLO.
Yeah.
And I don't want people in the past to hear me and think I'm just saying holiday in a funny way.
Yeah, good point. Holodays. And how are holidays different from holidays?
So a holiday... Wait a minute. A holiday might be a holiday, but a holiday is not necessarily... It doesn't have to be a holiday.
True.
So a holoday is on a holodeck.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Or actually, if you want to have a precise... It's using a holodeck in a massive hall.
To take a holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So a holiday is a holiday with a holodeck.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
So we've mentioned holodecks before, yeah? Like we had that...
we had a holodeck in the episode. Even.
Exactly. Here in my apartment. So we've mentioned them on a small scale before, but exactly a holoday is when, like you mentioned, going to a much larger area and you're not in your own apartment. So, you get a change of atmosphere. Also for that, you don't have to take care of, cleaning up or cooking food or the like.
Well, it depends on the actual holiday you're having.
True,
but
true.
I think the whole thing is that the hall that you're in is optimized for all kinds of physical interaction.
Sure. Yeah. Right. So if you go on a camping one, of course, then you'll be taking care of cooking your own stuff. Yeah. But if you go to one where it's like a hotel, then you won't.
And I think that's the big advantage of doing it in such a big hall, depending on the technology that's actually used. So let's say behind the paint, behind the landscape you're seeing, that also allows you to have all kinds of physical interactions. It's basically... Well, we can get to all the different environments that we've went to, but basically, if the holodeck isn't on, you're just seeing a big empty hall.
Just a big empty hall, and that's the main difference. So not the empty hall part, but the fact that it is all in the real world. That's the reason to go on a holoday rather than visiting the chorus verse. Is that the things are physical and tactile.
Yeah, exactly.
You're feeling them with your real body rather than a simulated world.
Exactly. That's the main, not the downside, but like the course first, you can have absolutely everything there, but you're basically an avatar in there. So you get to see and hear and smell and so on, but not physically touch, not really. So essentially, it's a bit of a vacation if you want, because you take your stuff. Depending on the holiday that you booked, there's more or less things being provided for.
Yeah,
it's if you're going on a camping holiday, you bring your own tent, sleeping bag, your own food.
Exactly. Stuff for making a fire, for cooking the food, things like that.
Yeah, and it's basically it can be it's very customized. So there's your fantasy. It really depends on the creators, like basically the people that basically the tour operators, how creative their ideas are, and then some of the holidays that I went to, they were super creative.
Such as?
I think it's probably been my all-time favorite is the Incredible Climb. It's extremely tiring, but very satisfying.
Is it? I think that's the one. Is that the one where you're just climbing for a week non-stop? Yeah, like
exactly.
Climbing up a cliff.
Yeah, exactly.
Mountainside. Yeah.
It's not that you need to get to the top before a certain point because then the storm is coming in or whatever. But it's just climbing, and depending on your fitness or whatever, it's basically more or less. But the climb doesn't actually end. So the environment.
Right, there is no top to reach.
Exactly. So you still have all the views, and as far if you keep on climbing, the landscape around you simply becomes smaller.
Yeah.
But there's no limit to it, and so and then they have certain things that don't happen in the real world. Like if you get to a certain height, it gets harder to breathe. That effect is just very little. So you do notice it, and it gets chillier and so on.
But it's subtle. It's not, and it's not so bad that you actually pass out, tumble down. Yeah.
Exactly, but of course, in reality, you're in the hole.
Yeah.
So you don't actually.
But the illusion is effective enough that you forget that.
Yeah. And the technology behind it is pretty impressive as well, because I've seen they don't actually show you, at least not when I went, so you don't get to see how the climbing is without actually getting all the landscape put over it. But essentially, of course, you're staying kind of on one place. It's the mountain that you're climbing below your hands and feet is actually kind of rotating. It's actually it's not you actually going up, it's actually the mountain going down.
You're climbing, and so you are going up slowly, but as you're climbing, the mountainside that you're climbing is actually basically moving downwards.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like being on an escalator, like walking up and down escalator.
Exactly. I was going to say it's essentially like an escalator that's looping.
Yeah.
So you keep on climbing, but then of course the actual hole, they slowly raise the temperature based on
exactly, adjust the temperature,
reduce the oxygen,
exactly, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then they have of course sound effects, and depending on also like your time a day, when it gets to the evening, for example, they just make sure that while climbing you get to a plateau, so you can put your tent up and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it's independent of how good of a climber you are, because you just climb what you can handle, so you're always tired. You basically have the outside air, and you have the physical strain and so on, and then
it's the nice thing where you can climb. Basically, you can just keep climbing as long as you want, and then you start to feel a bit tired. You're like, actually, my body now really needs a rest, and then you can have a rest. Yeah,
exactly. And then they make sure to have plateaus come up at the proper time. And then essentially you're putting up your tent on this plateau, you have this massive view, sun goes down, you have an amazing sunset, and the next morning you are fresh and you keep on climbing. But of course, all the same time you're in the hole roughly at the same place. So you put your tent up, but the tent is basically in an empty hole.
Yeah. So empty of like mountains, of course, but you and the other people you're climbing with are there. If you're with other people.
And that's also what I like the most is this physical interaction, because especially the technology, you could really compare it with an escalator, but an escalator, you have steps moving up and down, but this technology, has really, I'm not sure what the proper term is, but it is tiny isolated pillars that can move up and down at will, so you can create any kind of environment.
Yeah, right. Anything you're touching is really there.
Yeah.
It exists in the real world. And of course, the things you see further away, that's holograms.
Yeah.
Those things clearly aren't there, but the illusion is seamless. So you don't notice the transition between the physical objects and the holographic ones.
Yeah. And that creates a really nice atmosphere because you're physically actually climbing on top of things, and then they can be smooth or they can be rough.
Mm-hmm. Right. Texture, not just height, but texture. So you mentioned the temperature of the air, but of course also then the temperature of the rocks, yeah?
Yeah.
As the sun goes up, as the day gets hotter, then the rocks themselves warm up.
When you climb a volcano, things get hotter.
That too.
And also, I have to say that some people would say that those are things that they don't like, is you do occasionally notice things moving below your feet. It kind of feels like a slight earthquake, but that's the technology. Yeah, because of course it is actually reorienting itself based on what you do in the environment. So you occasionally feel like a slight vibration.
Mm-hmm. But the fun thing with that is the people who notice that are folk who, for example, in this example, are people who climb mountains for real.
Yeah.
And then they notice the difference there. But what's I find fun about it is people who've never climbed real mountains. For them, that's what mountain climbing is like, And then actually, if they go to climb a real one, they're like, there's way less of those tiny earthquakes. Like and actually, it's not necessarily a conscious thing like that. It's more just that it feels not quite right.
Exactly, and it feels too stable.
Yeah, because people are used to the holodeck version.
To have a slightly moving underground, any things you particularly like or don't like about Holodays?
I mean, something I don't like is sometimes I wish I could stay in there longer.
Yeah.
But there is a hard limit of 1 week maximum. However much fun you're having, however much you like it, you must leave after 1 week. And I do understand that, of course. So earlier on, when there were no such limits, some folk would stay in there for months or even years at a time. And maybe they enjoyed it in the moment, but it actually had some pretty bad health effects.
I understood it, So it's not like otherwise it gets too expensive or so. Psychological reasons in this environment.
Of being able to, so for example, like we're saying, you climb the mountain and just as you get tired, the plateau shows up. For 1 week, great. If you had that for a few years and then you leave the place, well, then all of a sudden the real world doesn't actually, it's not so accommodating,
True.
And so then people would be really frustrated and angry with the real world, And then sure, they'd want to go back and live in the holodeck, and maybe some folk did, but then maybe, so that was not a good result.
Yeah, I can imagine, you're climbing a real mountain, you get tired, I'm going to pitch my tent now. It's like, hang it from a ledge.
And of course there were, safety features, like if you actually do slip off the mountain in the holodeck, it's not so realistic that you fall to your death, It's done subtly, it's done nicely, a big condor will swoop down and grab you up in its talons and take you to the nearest plateau. Or
the patch of grass that you hadn't noticed when you were climbing up, stuff like this.
Things like that. So there are safety features in there, and those safety features, of course, don't exist in the real world. So that was another thing, people who've got used to climbing mountains in the holodeck, then go out to climb real ones and are, too careless, They don't consider the full danger of it.
I think it's also worth pointing out that we speak about the technology, but of course a lot of the holodecks differ, and also a lot of the halls differ.
Yeah.
And also the technology that I was speaking about before, like that's called the escalator technology, is not always there. So some of the cheaper holodays you get to.
I mean, that works well when it will be like your holoday is within a small cabin, for example, and you don't leave the cabin. Okay, the hall's big enough to simply contain that cabin. Then it doesn't need to have escalator technology or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true. But you can, at least that's what I've had at least once where you bump into the wall where there isn't a wall.
That happens right in those ones where it's meant to be that you're in this limited scope, but then somehow you stray beyond it.
Yeah, and it's also like at least as far as I understand it, like the bigger halls, they have basically rotating floor. So depending on which direction you run or crawl or walk or whatever, they rotate the floor and they change the height and so on that you're always roughly in the center. But if you move quickly or the technology is not good enough, you can actually occasionally bump into the wall, which is, if it's a tree, fine, you bump into a tree. But if it's let's say, bright sky at the beach and you suddenly bump into an invisible wall. That's weird. And then you really snapped out of your holiday experience.
Pulls you out of it. That's true. And actually, but actually it's the other way. So something else I like about the holodecks, that you can, I don't know that we've ever talked about it before, but something I really enjoy, not in the holodecks yet, but just as a holiday thing to do out in the world, is skydiving combined with teleporters. So basically you skydive, I think I mentioned it before, and then you go through a teleporter and then you high again. Yeah. So you can basically keep looping, so you can fly a longer distance. And that's a lot of fun, but of course that jumping through the, portal, not teleporter, through the portal, breaks you out of it a little bit. Every time you pass through, you're in a different area, the temperature is different, the wind is different, and so on. And what's nice in the holodeck is that it can be more seamless.
Yeah.
So you are falling, but because then the holograms around you make it feel like it's consistent, you don't feel like you're jumping place to place to place. So I really enjoy that aspect.
And it's they use like an upward wind or something, I guess, where
exactly.
you basically stay in one place, but the hologram makes you believe that you're...
Yeah, and it's a bit cool. So you're not actually staying in exactly the same spot. Yeah. But sure, you're not actually traversing the huge distances it seems like you are, but you are moving around within the whole. So you really experience flying.
You see, I haven't actually done this. Sounds actually pretty cool. But what I like is that, of course, everybody is different, and they have a lot of scenarios planned where something unplanned happens that is not really part of the experience, but it happens. Whatever, you spill a drink or something like that.
Right, and then there'll be a in-universe reason. For that. So spilled drink, that's an easy one. They just have a drink actually spill over, But other things, and this isn't really in the smaller holodeck halls, where maybe they're so small and everyone's taken off their shoes, and the ventilation isn't quite good enough, so you can smell people's cheesy feet. And until they can get the ventilation working well again, a waiter will come on over and say, hey. So not when you're climbing a mountain, but if you happen to be at a place where a waiter would make sense, a waiter will bring a cheese platter, bottle of wine, then it goes together well. And of course then the cheese itself is real, so that has an actual cheesy aroma, overpowers the feet aroma, works out well.
I've had it at least once where there were indeed quite a few people taking that holiday, and you basically travel also in groups, and then there was a child that was crying, and then they basically inserted a herd of llamas passing by that were all making the typical llama sound, rah, 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 and kind of over...
At first, stopped you being able to hear the baby crying so much, and then also, a whole bunch of llamas going by caught the attention of the baby, and soothed the baby. So it's like, what the... babies don't necessarily know that it's a hologram,
Yeah, exactly. And both of it worked. So they immediately had something to distract everybody, and then also to stop the actual sound from happening. So you have any favorite places you've went to? We mentioned the incredible climb.
Yeah, my favorite is... So, I mentioned flying, but when it's flying, that's not really a specific place, at least not on the ground, but a place I really like on the ground is called Million Oaks. And that's this really beautiful...
That's where you took me.
Yeah, exactly. With the forests, and then... you can have weather cycles, but I tend to like visiting, having it be that it's a nice afternoon, sun shining through the trees. There's all these little pools that you can bathe in underneath the trees. It's just really relaxing.
And I remember we climbed quite a few trees.
Exactly. You can climb up and jump into the pools.
But that's the thing how these trees differ from real world trees, where they're kind of constructed in a way that you can actually climb into the next branch.
Exactly. They don't look like a climbing frame, They look like a tree. That just so happens to have had the branches grow at the really ideal spots for you to be able to climb up.
And they're also reliable and stable, real branches you just have to try, is this okay? In a holiday you can rely on them.
And that's how I like it. You can tweak it, You can always tweak it. You can say, hey, I want a challenging holiday where I totally can fall to my death. You won't die, You'll be saved by a condor, but you can have it feel like that. I tend to like it where it's a little challenging, but I'm not worried about actually falling to my death.
What I thought was nice is in the Million Oaks that they had a few huts really high up in the trees. So you could, not on every tree, but you could climb up, and sometimes you would then bump into one.
Yep.
And it was nice when we were looking for a place to pitch your tent, basically climb a few trees.
Yeah, you didn't need to build a tent, could simply stay in one of those huts up on the treetops. And they'd have a fully stocked minibar, stuff like that. Good combination.
I liked a place called Cookie Dough Land. And it was a very soft underground. So I still don't know how they did that.
Like when you're walking on the ground, it's like a little bit springy.
Yeah, exactly. It was always a little bit soft and springy, and the smell was just really nice. And normally
of cookie dough, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And normally if you walk on cookie dough, then afterwards you don't eat it, right? Because you just walked on it. But this was all part of the holiday anyway. So it's where you're surrounded by cookie dough.
Just take a bite whenever you like.
Yeah, exactly. And you walk up and down and left and right. They have different kinds of flavors, and you can basically walk on a straight surface for a while, but you could also climb, slide cookie dough hills and so on. It was it just felt like a dream.
Yeah. Sure, and a very like the Incredible Climb, Million Oaks. Those are more based on real world places. Cookie Dough Land is completely fantastical.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know a real world place any.
Like someone could make it, get a whole load of cookie dough, coat a landscape, but it would go off, meaning the dough would rot. It would not be a good idea. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that's ideal for a holodeck.
True. Yeah. Are there any particular items you usually bring? So, like, if I take a holiday, I always bring something.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned it depends on the holiday. Yeah? Like if you're going on a hike where the whole point is that you're going to cook food, then it wouldn't make sense to take this. But usually I take a portable Congo. Oh, yeah. So that I can, get hungry, have whatever I want to eat. Sometimes the point is to actually, find some plants, and pick up some mushrooms or the like, and cook a meal. But when that's not the case, portable Congo is ideal.
I used to always have my portable Congo with me, and I still have it always with me. But I've had a few times where it's booked with meals including. And then they serve them in a pretty creative way. It's like an Incredible Climb. You get to a ledge, you climb on it, and there's a plate of French fries or whatever.
That's creative. Yeah, that's unusual, definitely. I thought you were going to say something like, you come across a plant, you open up like the leaves, and in the leaves it opens up to be a plate with some food that somehow grew there.
That would actually be cool.
That would be more subtle, I guess.
I haven't had that, but I've had let's say waiters show up at weird places.
Yeah. I like it in Million Oaks. There are these in some of the we mentioned at some of the treetops there are these little huts you can sleep in. Some of them there'll be these little huts not for you to sleep in, but they'll have these little teddy bear like creatures who will serve you food. Basically like a little restaurant. And so you climb up there, have a nice little conversation with them, get some food, climb back down, go on your way.
I've had one of those teddy bears shoot a pebble at me when I entered.
Like with a slingshot?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I was there too early.
Too early, it's like, hey, come back later.
But I like it when waiters show up at random when you're hungry or when you're supposed to be hungry.
Not integrated into the scenario, just simply showing up.
But it's very expensive.
Sure.
So I've had it the first time. I've had it a free upgrade. So I had my Congo with me, but I got a free waiter upgrade, which was really nice. And then afterwards, booking my next holiday, I was like, oh, should I also add that? I had that last time for free. That was really cool. You liked
it so much.
So I've done it once or twice. So I guess the marketing worked. Yeah. But it's pretty expensive. So.
Sure. And that's maybe why you had that free upgrade to let you know how nice it was.
Give me a taste.
Exactly.
And depends on, there's like one tour operator that has a few really exclusive holidays. But their main hall is in Sri Lanka. And there are mosquitoes in there that are not part of the experience.
Right. It's not depending. Right, but exactly, they're there anyway.
Yeah,
because it's Sri Lanka, and if you've chosen a holiday that is in a place that should have mosquitoes, great.
Yeah,
but if not so much.
Exactly. So usually, when I take, they have some really nice exclusive things, but their hall is just it's not completely shut.
It can't be, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure they have mosquito nets everywhere, but mosquitoes find a way.
Yeah, and it's also so big as well that they kind of live in there. So, I usually bring insect spray. I mean, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But it's just the climate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that covers.
I think so. Yeah. Like I say, we didn't for a few weeks there. We didn't talk so much about a tech topic.
Yeah.
We have spoken about a tech topic.
Yes.
Job done.
And
I think an interesting one, of course.
Yeah, I think so too. And we even got a listener question.
Indeed.
So it's really your typical episode again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, back to the regular format. So sure, let me read this question here. Hello, my name is Karim. I'm from Banfora in Burkina Faso, and I really like your podcast. I think it's a great idea to think about what the world could be like in 200 years. Your version sounds like it is a world to look forward to. I also have a question for you. Are there many black people in the 21st century? You've mentioned names that sound like they could be from black people, so I'm curious. Bye-bye. I like at the end they say bye-bye like I say bye-bye.
True. Actually,
maybe that's just how I read it. Yeah.
But it's a really nice question, Karim. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And also the answer is simple, yes.
Yeah, of course. I mean, how would there not be?
Yeah, and there are some...
and sure, the people who have names... so actually, I don't... Yeah. I presume the names now are similar enough to they were 200 years ago. Like he's saying, that there are people whose names he suspects that they would be black people.
I guess best, especially last names, I guess. But,
I guess, yeah.
But yeah, so, and there are some white people too.
Of course, yeah, some white people too, and robots as well.
Yeah, and also everybody lives everywhere, as far as I understood it, because that's the world as we know, as I've always known
exactly.
it.
It's I mean, sure, you're born in a place, but you don't stay in that place. You move around for work, for fun, for family, for all different reasons. You move around, live in different parts of the world.
Yeah, so as far as I understood, the teleportation happened really well. It's like it's suddenly giving everybody the opportunity to be everywhere all the time. Really mix things up. Yeah, so that's the world how we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great to hear we have a listener from Burkina Faso in the 21st century. Keep up. Tell your friends, Karim.
We want listeners in all the places.
Exactly. We should have a map where we get listener questions from.
I mean, right, for us, not for the listeners, but just for us, that we have a map. Put a pin in each place where we know we have listeners from. That would be nice.
And at one point we're going to say, oh, come on, somebody from Switzerland, send us an email.
Well, right, because we want to fill in the map.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So people listening to this episode of Test from the Future, please send us an email to michaellasagna5@gmail.com and put in the subject line the number 121 so that we know this episode specifically went back in time successfully, that you heard it, and that you enjoyed it, of course. And any questions you may have, put them in there too.
All right. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening and see you in 200 years.
Bye-bye.